Hello. In lesson 1.40, we're talking about this man's life, about his daily activities, things he does most every day. And this is now possible because you know the 60 most commonly used verbs, starting with live and ending with sleep. We're going to learn to compare, talk about two things that are identical or very similar, and contrast things which are different about this man's life and your life, and this man's life and my life. When we compare, we're going to use the word to. For example, the man is a teacher, and I am a teacher too. The man listens to music, and I listen to music too. However, when we contrast to show the difference, we're going to use the word but. The man is a teacher, but you are not teachers, you are students. Or the man listens to music, but I don't listen to classical music like the man does. I listen to rock music. Or let's compare again. Compare, all right? The man lives in a house, and I live in a house too. But the man walks to school, but I don't walk to school. I take my car. Okay? So we're learning to compare and contrast using the words to and but. This man's life with my life, and this man's life with your life. But first, in section 2, let's make sure that we can just simply describe what this man does in a fairly rapid manner. So here, for example, you were told you to listen, and you'll listen to this description. He lives in an apartment. He makes the bed. He says hello. He washes his hands. He listens to music, etc. Okay, that's what you do in section 2. In section 3, it's the same. This time, instead of listening, you're going to describe the man's life. You are going to say or describe. You're going to talk about this man's life. And you will say, he lives in an apartment, he makes the bed, he says hello, etc. Okay? In section 4, here it is. Now we're talking about this idea of comparing and contrasting. For example, here we're comparing, and we will use the word to. This idea is contrasting two things that are different, and that we will use the word but. For example, the man lives in a house, but the girl doesn't live in a house. She lives in an apartment. Here we're going to compare the girl and the boy, the girl and the man. He prepares breakfast. She prepares breakfast too. Okay, but is different. To is the same. Number 3, he eats cereal, but she doesn't eat cereal. She eats eggs. And last of all, one more comparison. The man goes to school, and the girl, or she, goes to school also, or too. She goes to school too. I use the word also. To and also are the same. They compare. Okay? All right, so that's what you do in section 4, I believe it was, correct? Section 5, actually in section 4, you listen to those comparisons and contrasts, and then in section 5, you're going to say them. Section 6, now this is making it more personal. We're using again the words to, or also if you like, and but. But now you're going to talk about yourself. In this first section, section 6, you're going to listen as I compare the man's life and contrast. I compare and contrast the man's life with mine. For example, if I click here, he lives in an apartment, but I don't live in an apartment. I live in a house. Notice I use the word but. He lives in an apartment, but I don't live in an apartment. I live in a house. Okay, I'm contrasting his life with mine here. Now, listen to this.
He makes the bed, and I make the bed too.
So he makes the bed, and I make the bed too. You can also say also. He makes the bed also, or I make the bed also. Okay? So I'm comparing and contrasting. Comparing with to, and contrasting with but, the man's life with my life. Well, in the next section, it's the same type of activity, but this time, instead of talking about my life, you are going to compare or contrast the man's life with your life. And here you can see there are no red borders. There are no answers for you to listen to because the answer depends upon your life. For example, you will say, he lives in an apartment, but I don't live in an apartment. I live in a house. Or maybe you do live in an apartment. Then you will say, he lives in an apartment, and I live in an apartment too. Okay? So that's what you're doing in section 7. And last of all comes the tests, in which you have 3 minutes to say, to describe this man's life. Here you're not comparing, you're not contrasting, you're not saying to, you're not saying but, you're just describing the man's life in 3 minutes. Do you think it's possible? Watch me. Here we go. I'll start the clock. I have 180 seconds. He lives in an apartment. He makes the bed. He says hello. He washes his hands. He listens to music. He prepares breakfast. He eats breakfast. He likes breakfast. You could say he eats cereal also. It doesn't matter. He watches TV. He takes the wallet. He puts the wallet in his pocket. He opens the door. He goes out. She stays. He leaves. He walks to school. He is a teacher. He hears the boy. He sees the boy. He knows the boy, David. The boy comes. He meets the boy. He talks with the boy. They go to school. The restaurant sells hamburgers. The boy wants a hamburger. The man buys a hamburger. He gives the hamburger to the boy. The boy has the hamburger. The man arrives at school. He enters the school. He goes upstairs. He sits down. He studies, or he learns English, French, Spanish, a language. He studies the language. He reads. He thinks. He asks a question. He doesn't understand. The teacher helps. He knows the answer. He writes the answer. He loses the pen or his pen. He looks for the pen. He finds the pen. He gets up. You also say he stands up. He forgets the keys. He leaves the keys. He goes downstairs. He plays basketball. The boy starts. The boy runs. And he finishes. The man returns home. He works in the garden. He is tired. He closes the door. He drinks water. He plays guitar. He sleeps. Stop. I had 55 seconds left. It only took me 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And you saw I wasn't hurrying. I was speaking at a steady pace. Well, you have more time, but hopefully you can describe those activities at the same steady pace and finish easily in 3 minutes. Why is it important? Because if you can describe what the man is doing, you can talk about your life and then start to compare your life with, for example, a correspondent overseas or someone you're interviewing, like you've already done on occasion. Okay? So that's the content of the test. That's it. I'll see you again soon. Now it's your job to go back to the beginning. Don't just rely upon me. Go back to the beginning and actually do these exercises yourself. Okay, starting with section 2. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.